in the first 12 hours of an application of which we meet the criteria. Guys, there's one massive missing element to this hiring practice. Whether they have a vagina or not, or what their sexual preference is, or what color they are, and not their abilities, zero testing to determine who might be better than the others. I'm sure they wouldn't say anything to me because no one wants to be fired for being racist or sexist. There is the answer to this 20-minute discussion. All right, guys, welcome to Transmit 1075. This is going to be the most unusual and probably detrimental video I've ever done since I live in this town. But I wanted to go through. I think this is happening across the country. I know it's happening here. I am pissed and I'm disgusted. And I just can't believe the way the world is turning out these days. So let's go through it, okay? Been a career fire. I've said this 100 times, but I'm a 3-generation firefighter. Every male in my entire family on my mom's side was a firefighter. Like I said, 3 generations. My sons have started to have some interest in doing this potentially. They're both one's a college graduate, one's about to be a college graduate. They're super smart. One is a really, really good athlete. Anyway, as luck would have it, on Facebook, I saw an offer for hire at Boulder Fire Department, Boulder City. And so I shot that application process to my boys and said, hey, guys, it's a great time to do this. The economy's a little shitty. You've always had a little bit of interest in the family business. Fill out this application, take the test, and see what happens. And I just want to point out for the record, both my kids are young. They are inexperienced. They didn't grow up in the thick of things like I did in the fire service. So they have a lot to learn. And I have no expectations whatsoever that they were going to be hired. My only expectation was you get in there, you take the written, you take the physical, you see how you do. Maybe you crush it, maybe you don't, maybe you're vomiting halfway through. Whatever it is, it's a learning process and you're a better person afterwards. And the next test that comes along or whatever, maybe you have a chance. But this was purely just to get your feet wet and try things out. Okay, my younger boy, who is 21 years old, who again meets the criteria as we'll go through. There is essentially 3 things in the prerequisites that it's really 2, but there's technically 3. The 3 things are you have to be 18, check. You have to have a high school diploma, check. Third thing says at some point prior to the final your official job offer, you have to have EMT. Fine with that. They may or may not be able to get that. I think they could probably swing it, but there's also so many open-ended questions to this, which is how soon are they going to start this process? How soon do they have all the different aspects of the testing procedure done? When are they really hiring? What are the budget constraints, right? So what could be 3 months from now could also be 2 years from now, which is why they probably say on there, have your EMT by the time we give you this offer. And so God knows when that happens. But if it was so damn important, we would have it listed as a prerequisite. It's not, it's listed. Other thing I want to mention, there are 2 essential ways to hire firefighters, okay? Again, I've been in this business for over 32 years. I know how this works. You have the military way and sort of what I would refer to as the resume way. The military way is, look, we need a body. That body needs to be physically capable, and the brain in that body has to be smart enough to do the tasks at hand. So what happens in the military? You take a physical, you take a written, you pass, and then that department trains you to what they think and they deem important. As a matter of fact, departments like FDNY, they don't even want candidates that have some pre-experience because they don't want to train that. They want to train them in the way they think things should be done. So they don't want you coming there with an understanding or methodology that goes against their policies. So that's the one way. The other way, this is typically done by small municipalities or departments that don't have money, and that is resume. And so we also, for a department that's not really busy, we can't hire firefighters that don't know what they're doing because it would take 20 years in order to get them qualified or have a good skill set. So if we hire firefighters with a resume And so they have firefighter 1, they have firefighter 2, they have 10 years experience here. They used to be working in an ambulance over there. And so they come to the job knowing what they're doing, and you can just plop them on the street. That's another way. Those are the two ways. The way Boulder Fire Department has chosen is the military way, which is you have no experience. We're sending you to the academy, and we're going to train you. We're going to give you firefighter 1. Now, one would also add, if you're hiring a firefighter, why is a prerequisite to EMT when they don't even have firefighting? Why isn't the prerequisite being a firefighter to hire a firefighter? But that's another argument for another day. But anyway, so that's essentially what it is. So Boulder City, it would appear, are looking for bodies. You meet the two minimum requirements, like I said, which is you have half a brain and you can run around, and then we're going to build you. So I would tell you, much to my surprise, when my son applied, which meets the criteria, he is a high school graduate and he is over the age of 18, and he has the capability of having EMT prior to being officially offered a job, was declined over the internet within 14 hours of applying for this job. So, that's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
So what I decided before going further down the road of which you're going to see. This is going to be a multi-day YouTube video because we're still in the paces, but I want to start laying out the groundwork. I too applied for this job because the application process, as stated, is 3 things. Okay, I happen to have all 3 of them. Now, granted, I'm a little older than my son, but since we're in the land of no age discrimination, I easily am over 18 years old. I have a high school diploma, and I have EMT. Now, full disclosure, my EMT, I was on the East Coast. I already made calls, and I have to go to take a class for several hours to get it trained to be updated and blah, 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 blah. Suffice it to say, I provided a serious resume and all the qualifications, and I too, I applied on a Friday, and then on Monday I found out. So if you look at business hours, I too was declined within, I would say, 12, 14 hours. And this, again, I have no expectation. Am I really going to take this job? I don't think so. Maybe I would if I made it all the way through. But at this stage of the game, both my son and myself live in the town. That's another thing I want to mention, is that we live in town. Okay, so we live in town, we meet the prerequisite obligations, and both of us are declined in the first 24 hours of filling out the application. Does the state of Colorado have a shortage of firefighter candidates as a whole? What does AI say? Yes, Colorado is experiencing a statewide shortage of firefighter candidates, with fire departments reporting a need for over 2,000 additional firefighters, including both career and volunteer, in the coming years to address staffing gaps and increased demands. This includes 1,100 career firefighters and a similar number of volunteers. Okay, I won't keep reading, but you get the idea. So I've applied, my son applied, my other son is going to apply, and we're being declined in the first 12 hours of an application of which we meet the criteria, let alone the crap I'm going to bring up here, which is another side story. But what I'm saying is they need firefighters, and they're applying, and their Boulder City is we're not even getting a chance. That's the other thing. Again, any of the people going to complain and say, oh, I'm mad because my son or some other ridiculous reason. All I'm asking for is a fighting chance. Being declined in immediately before my son has ever run around or taken a written or been interviewed or done anything is asinine. This is me taking the application. My son had already done this. After he was declined in 14 hours, I went ahead and said, okay, let's see what happens when someone that actually has all the excuse the scanner, has all these prerequisites and 1,000 other qualifications. Let's see what happens. So this application is extremely light, okay? They barely ask anything, okay? So this isn't, again, we're going with the military side of of just taking a body. So here it is. I've done a poor job of recording all this. I'm going to talk over my own personal self-talking, but in this first thing is work experience. So you're going to basically, now look, I'm putting firefighter in all these qualifications. Meanwhile, look, I'm an old guy that has all this experience. Most people, most 20-year-olds that are going to be filling this out are going to be putting in Home Depot and the golf course, and they were a babysitter or whatever the hell it is. Maybe a couple are going to have worked briefly for some EMS transport service or something like that. But this experience is going to be by far, I am blowing away any single person that's applied for this job, because most of it are just young kids trying to get their first job. And Boulder has a position available, and on the bottom, it's not recorded, but there's a thing to upload your resume. But they're asking for the work experience here. So all you're doing is giving a hard copy version of that you worked at the Home Depot for the last year and a half, and whatever. So let's continue. And by the way, I know I keep saying the same damn thing, but they're asking for experience, but it's not an experience job application, okay? Experience job applications just go, you already have all these firefighter qualifications. This is just making sure that you have some bottom line basic thing that you're a human being with a functioning brain. So this is the next question, the bunch of questions. Are you eligible to work in the U.S.? Yes. How did you hear about this? Social media. Now, these are not in-depth. No one on the face of the earth is reading these questions and going, oh, yes, this is a guy that's going to be a great EMT firefighter, okay? This is just middle-of-the-road, watered-down, basic things. Do you have relatives, in-laws, or domestic partners working in the city of the city of Boulder? That's not going to help decide whether or not you're capable of crawling down a dark hallway and dragging a person that weighs 300 pounds out of a burning building.
Do you live in the U.S.? Will you be ready for the job? Nothing of any significance.
Okay, so far, it's a big nothing.
Let's look at this. Voluntary disclosures.
Oh, wait a second. Now we're coming to the meat and potatoes, of which I'm going to describe in greater detail, of what we're basically only asking about in this application process. And here it is.
Are you a female? Are you non-binary? Are you a veteran? Please pick one of these race ethnicities. Very important here. It's actually
So to go over again, where do you live? What Home Depot did you work for? Some basic application questions. What's your are you a male or a female or binary? And are you black, white, Hispanic? You get the idea.
Group of questions has its own heading. Let's go to the next one. Self-identify.
Okay, what physical disabilities do you have? That's it. That is the resume, that is the application that both my son and myself have filled out. All right, guys, so we're in a different spot in my house, but I wanted to go over something that just occurred today. So as I've been compiling this information, I called Boulder Fire Department today. I went online. I initially tried to call. They have like a chief's number, a deputy chief. So they have a couple different high-level ranking positions. I tried calling all those. Oddly enough, a couple of them, you dial first of all, there's a number directly to that chief or deputy chief or division chief, and all there is, the voice message comes on and it doesn't even say who they are or what department. It's just like, you've reached 305-168-222. So it's a little, not the most, what's the right word I'm looking for? It's not the most warming phone call you've ever made or connected to the city, since I'm a resident, but you got some, like, assuming it's the right number, it's like someone had a cell phone and never set the voice message up. But be that as it may, no one answered. Hopefully they'll call me back. On one of them, I left a message. I didn't want to be a pain in the neck. I did call the main number. They have like a general thing. And I got a female that answered the phone. I asked her if I could please speak to someone that was in charge of the hiring process, that since they were hiring right now, and I had a couple questions. I saw, I could already, almost instantly feel the tension on her side. And she was like, whoa, what's this about? And you tell me. I could tell without question that there would be a barrier for me to going up at higher levels, which is fine. I'm sure they get people complaining, God knows what, so whatever. But this woman, I should have asked for her name or her title. I did not, but she's in the chief's office or at the main building there. Anyway, I explained to her that my son had taken this test and that within 14 hours had been got a letter that he was disqualified, and we had basically met the prerequisites. And I was just trying to understand how did they come to this conclusion. She essentially, again, was a little hostile, not super bad. I was very, very polite and professional. And even though I'm from New Jersey, I tried to keep my Jersey attitude down the best that I could, and be, polite. Anyway, she suggested that one of the things she said initially is that like they can't accept so many, they can only have so many. During the course of this conversation, she was like, we can't have 500, we can't have 500 applicants, as if like that would be a problem. And so I initially thought that's what she was saying. I was like, wow, 500 applicants, that's great. And she was like, no, we don't have that many. And so the reason why I'm pointing this portion of the conversation out is it's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, it is weird.
Like her gut knee-jerk reaction to push back at me as to why my son was disqualified when he has the prerequisites is that they can't have 500 people. And no, you can have 500 people. Matter of fact, if you had 1,000 people, that would be better, because the more people you have, the more skill set they have to have in order to get the job, the more when they would take the written, the physical, you could decipher which was the better one. And so the more people apply, the better your chances of getting really, really good firefighters. So don't quite understand what her premise is. Furthermore, I'll tell you, I don't think they're having they're definitely not having a problem getting too many candidates, because, as I said, the whole state of Colorado is having issues. But towns that do have that problem, they charge. And so you could charge $75, $50, $100 for the application, and you could pay for the entire program. So having too many people, there's no such thing, okay? The more that you have, the better chances you have to get better qualified candidates. It's just that. Anyway, her main point, though, going back and forth, once I deciphered down to, she said that he didn't have his, first of all, she never took my name or his name or looked him up specifically. This was her just talking off the cuff. But she was suggesting that in nowhere in his application did it say that he had his EMT or was working towards studying for it or whatever the case is. And so I pushed back a little bit. I was like, well, listen, there's no question. First of all, it doesn't list that as a prerequisite. If it was that important to have it, you would make it mandatory. Or if it was that important to know what class you were in or how far you are along or whatever, you'd have a question in there that was like, when do you finish? How far along? Have you taken EMT before? Whatever. All right, guys, I'm injecting this little portion of the video into the other section I did first, because there's an inconsistency and I want to make sure we're perfect, because I want to be accurate and fair and honest. So when she asked, had we acknowledged that whether or not we would have EMT, that didn't click in my head, because it doesn't really ask the question in the exact same way. But it does say here, will you meet the qualification listed in the required education and experience section of the job description by the time of hire? In both my case and my son's case, I clicked the word yes. So therefore, as far as she knows, both myself and my son would be EMT certified by the time I was giving official approval or acceptance to the job. So not quite sure what she was trying to get there, what her point really that she was trying to make. And so I said to her at some point, listen, does that mean if not having this in the application, I said, look, maybe you guys should put it in there so it's a little bit more straightforward. I said, but does this mean if I am over 18 and I do have a high school diploma and I've made acknowledgement that I have my AMT, does that mean that we'll make it to the next step? And I will say here, initially she was a little off put and sort of talking in not in circles, but sort of not admitting to that being the case. Then she said something else that sort of verified that assumption. So then I pushed back again and I said, listen, I don't want to be rude. I'm not trying to be a lawyer, but you said you didn't, and now you're saying you do. So can you just clarify, if I had my EMT or verified it, would I be through? And her answer was yes. So that is the essentially, and by the way, if that phone call was recorded, if Boulder Fire Department has that in their possession, I'm more than willing. They can post that conversation. They can go through it with a fine-tuned comb. I assure you that my behavior, my attitude, the way I spoke, and my professionalism was there. And essentially what I'm telling you is what, maybe not verbatim, but pretty close. Anyway, if I go with her premise, once I sort of drug it out of her, that if you did have your EMT, you would then be in. You would at least get through this little silly step of going towards the next portion of the testing. I applied myself, and so I do have EMT, and I do have firefighter 1, and I do have firefighter 2, and I am a hazmat technician, and I was a fire inspector, and I have 30 something. So I, without question, check off every single box they could possibly imagine for this test. And I too was declined within this, business hour, 14-hour window. So that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that is weird.
So let's continue further and let's get into what's really going on here, because I'm pretty sure I have it knocked out. It says here, prior to final offer, applicants must complete the following. So medical evaluation, that makes sense. You go to the doctor, check up, make sure you don't have cancer, and when you turn in cough, everything's fine. Okay. Psychological evaluation, you're not crazy. Okay. Third, background check, that makes complete sense too. Those three things are typical for every application, every fire, police, you name it. Okay. Applicants are expected to successfully obtain an EMTB certification by the date of final offer. We've beat the horse on this a million times. Assuming once you get to the point where they're actually going to hire you, you got to have your EMT. Okay. Once hired, all firefighters are required to attend a firefighter academy. This is so they can become a firefighter, have firefighter 1, and hazmat ops, which is very basic, easy to get. Okay. By the end of the first year as a career firefighter there, you also have to get firefighter 2. Great, fantastic. Guys, there's one massive missing element to this hiring practice. And I've never seen this before. This is, I'm sorry to say, batshit crazy. There is no physical test, an agility test, an obstacle course, actually doing firefighting type things. And there's no written test. So, okay, you have a high school diploma, but don't we want to know whether or not you're smarter than the average duck and can do more than that? And so those two things is what eliminates 90% of the people from the pool of incompetent, not highly intelligent firefighters, okay? This is what everyone does. Now let's see something. Is this normal? Do firefighter tests typically involve a written or physical agility test? Let's see. Yes, firefighter hiring tests typically involve both a written exam assessing knowledge in areas like reading, comprehension, math, mechanical reasoning, and fire science, and a physical agility test such as a CPAT, which includes tests like stair climbing, hose dragging, and equipment carrying to simulate job demands. Okay, this CPAT, what it also does is make you wear a vest, and that vest is about 50 pounds, and it simulates all your gear, your helmet, the irons, whatever you're carrying. It's not just a pretend estimation. It's literally mimicking the weight of which you should carry. Well, guess what? Boulder doesn't have this. How do you know this? How do you know your candidate can do anything? Let alone, we don't know whether or not if they were in a smoke-filled room and it was dark, they could be petrified and not be good at their job. But we have nothing. The computer, the test, the application that I took, my son took, there is nothing in there to fine tune whether or not this candidate has any ability whatsoever to be a firefighter. Does Boulder City, Colorado Fire Department have a written and physical agility test prior to hire? Am I crazy? Am I misinterpreting this? No. Based on the latest available information from the City of Boulder's official recruitment and job posting as of late 2025, the Boulder Fire Rescue Department does not require a written test or physical test, such as a CPAT, prior to hire. This is insane. I have never in my entire life seen a department that doesn't have a physical and a written exam.
Yeah, it is weird.
Once again, back to the resume. If you want to hire firefighters that have been on the job 10 years, worked in Denver, worked here and there, have a long list of abilities, yeah, hire them, interview them, and put them right on the job. That is not what Boulder's doing. Boulder is starting at the ground, at the foundation. They're building firefighters. They're sending them to Firefighter 1 with zero testing to determine who might be better than the others.
0.0.
Why is that? I'm baffled. Why would they eliminate a physical test when you're talking about getting the competent and most competent people? What could that be? Let's look at the Boulder. Here it is. This is one page. In the link in the description, I'll give the whole thing out. You can look at their whole thing. But this is Boulder Fire Rescue Master Plan. Let's dig down here. Look at this. Workforce related goals to ensure healthy and competent. Wow, listen to that. Competent staff. Let's see, how would we do competent staff? Would we train them properly? Would you have to make sure they're strong enough to carry people? Would you make sure they're smart enough to do the job? Would you make sure they're brave enough? Let's see. What do we do here? Let me see here. 4.8. By 2030, in order to get this healthy and competent staff, we're going to make 25% of the firefighter workforce will be comprised of female firefighters. There is the answer to this 20-minute discussion. This is it, folks. When you don't have a real test, when you make believe that you're doing something, like having, when you've created an atmosphere that you're acting like you're looking for the best and the brightest and the most competent and healthy, this is what we're talking about right here. We need 25% of the fighting workforce to be comprised of female firefighters. And so why would you have to eliminate the test why would you have to eliminate a physical test to get women hired? I don't know. I wonder. Let's see. I asked AI, please list 10 reasons why males will outperform females as firefighters. Okay? I asked AI, let's see. Males generally possess greater upper body strength and evidence by higher bench press and grip strength. I'm just going to hit these real quick, right? On average, men have overall higher muscle mass and strength. Males tend to be taller, provide advantages. Men typically have greater body weight. Males exhibit higher absolute VO2 max levels. Studies show males are significantly less likely to pass, or more, likely to pass comprehensive physical performance tests. Greater hand grip demonstrate superior leg press strength, higher counter movement jump heights. Men often have a higher BMI and waist to hip ratios. Okay, for the super woke out there who think I'm being some kind of male chauvinist, I want you to look. These are the references for all this, okay? Okay, NIH. Oh, this is Open Public Health Journal. This is a Reddit, fine. NIH, who is that? Oh yeah, Lord Fauci, the greatest NIH member. Please list 10 reasons men may outperform women as firefighters mentally and psychologically. Okay, men typically exhibit a higher propensity for risk-taking, especially under stress. The male stress response often follows a fight-or-flight pattern. On average, men outperform women in spatial reasoning tasks. Men generally display higher levels of physical aggression. Under acute stress, men tend to make faster and more risk-oriented decisions. Men often perceive lower levels of risk across various domains. Men report lower instances of mental health issues. In high-stress occupations like firefighting, men typically experience lower levels of stress-related and burnout, blah, blah, blah. Greater assertiveness and aggressiveness in men. Men often demonstrate reduced emotional, and this is being blocked, I can't read it, but you get the idea. Once again, who's saying this? A bunch of sexist pigs, male pigs? Is this from Playboy magazine? Oh no, wait a second. This is from NIH. NIH. Carlson School of Medicine, EDU, FEMA, NIH. Okay, guys. So I'm sorry that thousands, hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary patterns have been created from the responsibilities that men had over time versus women and why we are the way we are. I also know that like there's a ton of things that women do better than men, being nurses being one of them. They're more caring and more compassionate. But anyway, what's going on here, guys? We're having a test to get 25% women. Okay, so I asked AI this question. Now, I think there's like 120, 125. Don't quote me. I really could look at the numbers here. I haven't. I forgot. But Boulder Fire Department has over 100 firefighters. They need to get to 25%. I mean, so that's, if it was 100, that's 25. I know they don't have that. And I know it's more than 100 firefighters. So they probably need 30, 40 firefighters. And so it's 2025. They got 5 years to do it. Is the only way you could get to that is to only hire female? So I just asked AI, wouldn't it be considered discriminatory and sexist to prejudge whom you are going to hire prior to ever seeing the candidates? Not choosing a male so you can meet a master plan goal is exactly the sexism or racism I'd say they are claiming to be defending against. Well, what did AI say? Yes, under U.S. law, blah, 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 setting rigid hiring quotas that prioritize women over the equality or more qualified men solely to meet a diversity goal would be considered unlawful sex discrimination. By the way, can't prove that all this is happening. It seems awful weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
If there's any lawyers out there who have seen what I've been saying for the last 25 minutes and maybe want to talk to me about a pro bono case, please send me a note in the description or privately. I'd love to hear and know what you think about what I've laid out so far. Because it seems to me when you literally don't have a physical, don't have a written, and are disqualifying people within 14 hours on a lame application that gets no information to make no chief could look at that questionnaire and decide from that information who they should hire.
0.0.
Again, I'm going to beat the dead horse here. This is particularly when we're talking about a non-resume hiring, okay? If they want to go to resume and bring people in and you sit down and you tell them what you've been doing for the last 20 years of your life and why you're so good and why you're already a firefighter and already an EMT and we want to pick the best, I'm with you. Do it. But in this case, when you're starting from the ground and you're picking people, it is quite obvious that you're not Boulder City Fire Department is not looking for the best and the brightest and the more capable. They are looking to fill, I wonder what. Is it something to do with whether you're male or female or non-binary? Does it something to do with being black or Hispanic? I don't know, but those are really the only questions that were asked in that thing. And it says on your website that you're going to shoot for 25% females. Seems to me this isn't a bridge too far. All right, guys, I think I've laid out a pretty good case. The only things I'm going to say left is, one, I apologize. I feel so bad having to do this to the men and women that have been on Boulder Fire Department for the last several decades who probably have a lot of pride in their department. I suspect there are numerous people I'm sure they wouldn't say anything to me because no one wants to be fired for being racist or sexist or whatever you name it. But I'm sure there's a bunch of people in this department that are disgusted with the way this is being handled and being run now. This does not make firefighters safer. Having a firefighter that's not capable of doing the job, that hasn't proven themselves, isn't making firefighters safer, and it surely isn't making the university students, the drunk kids that are living in fraternity houses with 40 people in an old house that's ready to fall down. There is going to be a time and a place, I am sorry to tell you, where the lives of these people will be on the line of the men and women that are hired today, tomorrow, and next year. And if your standard is whether they have a vagina or not, or what their sexual preference is, or what color they are, and not their abilities, we are screwed. And from someone, again, at the end of the day, my son can apply somewhere else. He may not even become a firefighter. I'm going to be just fine. This job, though, is one of the most important things ever to me in my life. And I have pride, and I love firefighters around the country, and I want to see the job continue. Firefighters have one of the highest reputations and respect in the whole country, if not the world. And shit like this is going to destroy it. All right, guys. Well, I wish there was a better transmit the 1075 than this one, but please look in the description for the information I gave today. Please check out my other stuff. And if something changes, if the world gets better somehow here in Boulder City, I'll be the first to tell you. Thanks so much for following along, and we'll see you at the next one.